Your teacher can open the door, but you must enter by yourself. Chinese proverb. Good evening again, or morning for certain people. All right, let's get started. All right. You can always come in and join me on these streams. You can talk about the topic at hand, and you might be able to segue to something else. You can always donate via Bitcoin or Vertcoin. I've had $0 since I've introduced those since 16 months ago. But anyways, if you can also do a Google Super Chat, which takes a big chunk, but if something slightly better, which is PayPal.me, which they take still a chunk, but I will disclose how much money I receive at the first video of the month, as well as my thank yous. Now, what you can do is, if you don't have any money, is go and prove the globe Earth. Get $15,000 from Zen Garcia and just donate to me a 10% finder's fee. You can find more about that over in that link. Okay, now let's go ahead and move on. So some of the things I was looking through, this is a wiki one about flat Earth. And, it's probably made up a lot about globe earthers, but still, it's interesting, the stuff that they do tell you, because it's the stuff that they would just want to tell you all these things that are like, they're just kind of dumb. Why would you listen to these mythologies and things like that? And they get things wrong, of course. Especially about the ancient Greeks and the pre-Socratic philosophers. But one of the things that I do like in this one, it mentioned the Zhoubi Suanjing, and so I went ahead and read a little bit about it. But the great thing about it, and I'll go and do a search. I lost it. All right, there we go. Again, here's something wrong. And I'll get to it. Okay, so as noted in the book Huananzi, in the 2nd century BC, Chinese astronomers effectively inverted Eratosthenes' calculation of the curvature of the Earth to calculate the height of the sun above the Earth by assuming the Earth was flat. Well, no. The Earth is flat. Eratosthenes had to assume the Earth was round, and that you can go ahead and read for yourself everywhere. Eratosthenes' measurement calculation. Heck, even in the wiki. Eratosthenes. Okay. Look, he made 5 important assumptions, none of which are perfectly accurate. That the Earth is a perfect sphere. He had to assume that. I mean, they say that's how Eratosthenes proved the Earth was a sphere, by assuming that it was a sphere, and thus circle jerk. Another thing that this gets wrong is they arrived at a distance of 100,000 li, approximately 200,000 kilometers. Well, 200,000 kilometers to miles is 124,000 miles. Yeah, if you convert li to miles, it's 31,068 miles. So, which is it? Flat Earth Wiki. So it's dependent upon whatever conversion you want to do. But anyways, that's quite a a big difference between 124,000 miles compared to 31,000 miles. The Zhoubi Suanjing also discusses how to determine the distance of the sun by measuring the length of noontime shadows at different altitudes. A method similar to Eratosthenes' measurement of the circumference of the Earth, but the Zhoubi Suanjing assumes that the Earth is flat. So I was like, that's interesting. Thank you for that information, Globe Earthers. So the current measurement of the sun to the Earth is 92.96 million miles, as opposed to the ancient Chinese, who described it as being 31,068 miles, or 100,000 li. So I went Google searching because I wanted to download it. It's kind of tough to find it. The closest thing I got to was here, which I'll go over, and it's Astronomy and Mathematics in Ancient China by so-and-so. But the problem with this guy is he just leaves his commentary. He's definitely a globe earther. He kind of ridicules the whole flat Earth concept that the ancient Chinese had. But the funny thing about the flat Earth with ancient China is if you read it in, I think even the wiki, right? Ancient China. Guess who introduced the globe Earth in ancient China? Just give me one guess. Guess who did? Guess who introduced the flat Earth to ancient China in the 17th century? The Jesuits. The Jesuits in the 17th century. Dang Jesuits. I always give my wife a bunch of grief about the Jesuits. But anyway, let's move on. We're going to go ahead and just do a search. Okay, Christopher Cohen is his name. Things on flat. The Zhoubi follows the doctrine of the Gai Qian cosmology, which... Oh, okay, maybe I'll just go a little bit further up. Actually, let me start by the Wikipedia of the Zhoubi Zhanjing. So... one of the oldest Chinese mathematical texts refers to the ancient Zhou dynasty, which is 1046 to 256 BCE, by means Thai, and according to the book, it refers to the gnomon of the sundial. The book is dedicated to astronomical observation and calculation. Suanjing, or classic of arithmetics, were appended in later time to honor the achievement of the book in mathematics. The book from the period of the Zhou dynasty, and all this other stuff. But it goes down to background behind Pythagorean derivation. At this early point in Chinese history, the model of the ancient Chinese equivalent of heaven, Tian, was symbolized as a circle, and the earth was symbolized as a square. Circle and the square. It always seems to be that the earth was always a square, right? And the heavens were a circle. In order to make this concept easily understood, the adopted symbol of the heavens was the ancient Chinese chariot. The charioteer would stand in the square body of the vehicle, and a canopy, the equivalent of an umbrella, stood next to them. The world was thus likened to the chariot in that the earth, the square, was where the charioteer stood, and heaven, the circle, was suspended above them. The concept has been termed canopy heaven. I would always think that at least one civilization, ancient civilization, would just kind of go beyond the norm and say, no, we're going to put the circle as the earth and the square as the heaven. They never did that though, huh? You know, just try it out. Eventually, the populace began to turn away from the canopy heaven concept in favor of the concept term spherical heaven. Oh yeah, Jesuits. This is partly due to, no, I'm just kidding, to the fact that the people were having trouble accepting heaven's encompassment of the earth in the fashion of a chariot canopy, because the corners of the chariot were themselves relatively uncovered. In contrast, spherical heaven, Tian, was heaven, Tian, completely surrounding and containing the earth, and was therefore more appealing. Yeah, you know, I can't grasp it, so let's just make it this. Oh, yeah, that's more appealing that way. Yeah, I like it. This is the dumbest thing ever. Despite the switch in popularity, Supporters of the Gaishan canopy heaven model continue to delve into the planar relationship between the circle and the square, as they were significant in symbology. In their investigation of the geometric relationship between circles circumscribed by squares and squares circumscribed by circles, the author of the Zhoubi, Suanjing, deduced one instance of what today is known as the Pythagorean theorem. Now, what's great about this and that the study of the ancient philosophers, especially the one where I talk about Heraclitus and Pythagoras and the flat Earth and the globe, flat plane and the globe Earth model, is that there's no works by these transcendental figures like Buddha, Jesus Christ, Pythagoras, even Socrates. They never wrote anything down, or at least that we have, that any scholar would say that they wrote anything about any of their events or something like that. I mean, I would guess write something down like, hey, I'm teaching all these things to people, you guys write it down, I'll just do the talking. You know, that must have just been the way it was. It's like none of them could learn how to write. You know, writing must have been too difficult for these transcendental figures. Or maybe they weren't supposed to write. Maybe writing was bad form. Who knows? But anyways, Pythagoras never really wrote anything. And of course, he always talked behind a curtain to his students. The man behind the curtain. Who is that? Yellow Brick Road. You know what I'm talking about, Wizard of Oz. Now, so a lot of things attributed to Pythagoras, we don't know. I mean, he was definitely founder of mystery schools, or at least a big part of mystery schools going into the Hellenistic period in ancient Greece. But anyways, let's forget about that. Let's talk about ancient China. All right. So Pythagorean theorem. I mean, this is probably at least the Europeans will always state that the Zhoubi Zhuanjing was just one of the first recorded proofs of the Pythagoras theorem. Now, we'll just get into this a little bit more. Let's see. Flat. But what can a historian of Western science hope to gain from the encounter? At the most trivial level, the Zhoubi is certainly a novelty for someone from an intellectual world. This guy is so full of himself, it's funny. Where the only flat earthers are pre-Socratics, known through a few doxographic fragments, or dogged, he's probably talking about the Heraclitus, or dogged eccentricists as Cosmos Oedicopleastes. More seriously, ancient Chinese astronomical theory and practice appears to have no significant connections with the worlds of Hellas, Babylon, or Egypt. All right, so let's see. Not the smallest challenge presented by the Zhoubi is that we have to think away the concept of the celestial sphere that has been natural to all scientifically educated Westerners since at least the time of Eudoxus. A transition much more difficult to make than the switch from a spherical to a flat Earth. Such exercise is good for the mind and sharpens historical perception. All right. Let's see. Now here we go. In reality, the apparent celestial axis is simply the projection outwards towards. Oh, okay. Let's move a little bit more here. Even the near stars are vast distances away compared to the radius of the Earth's orbit. Over a period of many years, the relative positions as seen by an observer on the Earth therefore change very little. As a result, they may be taken as an almost fixed reference system against which phenomena within the solar system can be measured. By the beginning of the Christian era, astronomers in both East and West had come to think of stars as fixed on the inner surface of a vast rotating celestial sphere, with the human observer at or very near its center. The points where the sphere's imaginary axis passes through it are the north and south celestial poles. In reality, the apparent celestial axis is simply the projection outwards into space of the Earth's axis. Good stuff. Likewise, the celestial equator, a great circle midway between the poles, is the outwards projection of the Earth's equator. Greek astronomers who believed in a spherical Earth were aware of these correspondences. But since Chinese astronomers lived in a flat Earth universe, the poles and the equator remain solely celestial concept. A second great circle, the elliptic, is inclined to the celestial equator at about 23 degrees. So it's still the 23, although they would state it as 23.4, right? But it fluctuates, that they say. Anyways, so the ancient Chinese, it was the ecliptic rather than the Earth's tilt. Let's just say that. This circle is the apparent annual path of the sun around the celestial sphere against the background of the stars. And again, this guy says, in reality, it is simply the outward projection of the plane of the Earth's orbit around the sun. This guy, in reality. All right, that's just too good. This guy likes to say in reality. It's like, what else? I mean, does this guy have a different vocabulary of anything else? In reality, heaven is flat and level, just like Earth. The apparent rising setting of the sun for a particular observer is an optical illusion caused by its moving closer to him and further away as heaven rotates with the sun attached to its underside. When it seems to set for one observer, another perceives it as culminating. The apparent meeting of heaven and earth at the horizon is similarly a purely optical effect. As we shall see, such views are precisely those found in the Zhoubi itself. Okay. There's something to see. Sorry, just kind of skimming through. All right, so I think this is where we'll get to that graph or the little. Let's see, where is it? Here we go. We're told explicitly about the shapes of heaven and earth. Stupid fly. I need chopsticks. Heaven rotates once daily. Rotates once daily about the pole, carrying the heavenly bodies with it, and it is a uniform height above the earth. We are told nothing explicitly about the shapes of heaven and earth, taking the earth as flat, which is the normal Chinese view before the 17th century. Damn Jesuits. It seems likely that Gen Z would have held that flat heaven was flat too. But we must be careful not to force issues that Gen Z himself does not raise. Yeah, thanks. In reality, thanks. But we must be careful not to, for by doing so, we may give a false picture of his concerns. As we shall see, another section of the Zhoubi suggests a different form for heaven and earth. Chen Zi's real concerns are revealed in the opening question put to him by his disciple Rong Feng. Long ago, Rong Feng asked Chen Zi, Master, I've recently heard something about your way. Is it really true that your way is able to comprehend the height and size of the sun, the area illuminated by its radiance, the amount of its daily motion, the figures for its greatest and least distances, the extent of human vision, and limits of our four poles, the lodges into which the stars are ordered, and the length and breadth of heaven and earth? We've already seen how Chen Zi answers these questions. Apart from the height of heaven, all the answers relate to plan view of the universe. Set out, you mean plain view? I guess. So here it is. You've got the center. I guess that you would think that would be the North Pole. 119,000 Li. 103,000 Li. And this is the orbit of sun at summer solstice, and then 208,000 Li orbit of sun at winter solstice. So I wonder why What's up with that part and that? I guess that's just the closest it ever gets to the pole. Might be 103,000 Li. Let's see. And again, look, this is the first recorded proofs of the Pythagorean theorem. And that the same test as Eratosthenes, except that they didn't assume that the Earth was a perfect sphere. So he calculated Eratosthenes calculated the Earth's circumference without leaving Alexandria, and he made 5 important assumptions, none of which are perfectly accurate. One, that the Earth is a perfect sphere. So in order to measure the circumference of the Earth, to prove that the Earth is a sphere, you had to assume that the Earth is a sphere. I don't know if you guys figured that out yet. Okay, let's go more. I think most of that is kind of done. You know, a lot of this, it's just the cosmology of ancient China. And it wasn't just it wasn't like they figured out, oh, you know what? The Earth is a sphere on their own. It took Jesuits in the 17th century from Europe to tell them, hey, you know what? Your idea that the Earth is flat, I just got to tell you, it's a sphere. It's like, what does your Bible say? It says it's flat, but we're science. Pythagoras. Oh gosh, it just kills me. Does it kill you? Probably not. It does kill me. I mean, just the entire situation. This is like, hey, we got Jesuits over here. Who are Jesuits? They're like priests. Oh, okay. All right, let's bring them in. Jesuits. Your Majesty, King of China, Emperor, whatever. It's like, we want to introduce you to God, and to make sure you understand that the Earth is a globe. It's like, all right, let me read your work of your God. And he reads it, it's like, well, how come in here it says the Earth is flat and there's like a dome around it, and the water separate like the heaven and the Earth? And it's like, well, back then the Jesuits say they didn't understand maths. It's like ancient China, this Chinese emperor going, look, I don't know where you're from, but we here in China, we're really good at maths. And Jesuits are like, yeah, well, we're better at maths. We have Pythagoras. And it's like, well, who's Pythagoras? Oh, he's this funny guy. He used to teach from behind a curtain. He left none of his works in writing and any of that stuff. And then finally he goes, well, he said that the Earth was round, or is a sphere. And then the Chinese emperor's like going, so you're going to take this weird guy over the word of your God that the Earth is a sphere and not flat with a firmament dome or something. Jesuits is going, yeah, of course. I mean, God wills it so. The emperor is probably just like, whatever. All right, we'll take your word for it. The Earth is a globe. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know some writer had to have come up with a better piece than that. It's just like watching a bad movie, right? It's just like the movies right now. All the movies we used to watch, they used to be good. I mean, there's a few good movies here and then, but they're far and few between, which, of course, I'm going to probably do a talk about the Scott brothers, Tony Scott and Ridley Scott, because they've made some good movies. Ridley Scott, very esoteric, Gnostic in some ways. Tony Scott, not so much, but Tony Scott knew how to make you think about situations and what is that there is really no right reaction to a situation. But you have to be creative in order to make, I guess, the best case for your reaction to a situation. Anyways, this is my video for today. My second video. I'll do the one with movies and the Scott brothers. Unfortunately, Tony Scott, which I did not know, passed away a long time ago. He suicided off a bridge. And that kind of explains why I haven't seen any movies from him. But I've been away from the news, so I didn't know he passed away till I looked up into, like, hey, what's Tony Scott making these days? And yeah. Anyways, that's it for tonight. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you another night.